back to the Rocks channel. Today I'm going to be sharing something that it's taken a lot of courage for me to share because I'm just so emotional still to this day about Imani's birth story because it did happen so abruptly and nothing went as my birth plan. I'm gonna have Scott come in and just we'll walk through it together because we were both in it together, so let's talk about it together. Scott? Okay, so far
Well,
I don't have
much. Yeah. So we'll kind of start from the beginning, and really, obviously, the pregnancy for us was a blessing,
Yes.
and we wanted to do everything right. So we set up, of course, our doctor's appointments and went to them religiously. And the doctor told us everything was going great with the pregnancy. There was no issues with the pregnancy.
Yeah, it was basically a textbook
Danica didn't have any high blood pressure. The blood sugars were good.
All the time. Even my glucose test came back normal.
Yeah. And so the doctor didn't see anything abnormal in what was going on with Danica. Didn't hear anything abnormal going on with Imani in terms of a heartbeat, where she was measuring with the stomach measurements. We went through the normal ultrasounds and everything looked great with Imani, no issues there. And so there was no concern from our end by any means. The pregnancy was going along normal, and the pregnancy was going along on schedule with zero issues. And then we took a hard right turn.
Yeah, out of nowhere. And it was the day of our 3D ultrasound, and I was like really excited to have a 3D ultrasound. So even though I woke up kind of feeling off, like I was feeling dizzy, my vision was not normal. I texted Scott telling him this, and I was like, well, maybe after you get off work, let's go to the urgent care. We still went to the 3D ultrasound, and she was saying that Imani was like tired because she wasn't moving a lot.
Sleeping a lot, yeah.
Yeah, she wasn't really moving. And then we went to the urgent care after work, and
now there are more pieces to your problem in waking up that morning, which kind of raised some flags for me. And one was, besides the migraine that you had, it was also associated with blurry vision.
Yeah.
And that for me was a big deal, because that's not even close to normal to have blurry vision.
And it wasn't like blurry vision, it was like my vision went away. Like it was black.
Yeah.
It was really scary. Yeah. And so I laid down thinking it was going to go away. I didn't know if it was because I was hungry or not, because I don't know. I sometimes can be a hypochondriac. So this whole pregnancy, it was like, I think I'm dying. I don't know what's happening. But yeah.
Yeah, we did go to different urgent cares probably about 2 or 3 times for pains that Danica was having, and she thought she was dying. Yeah. And every time the doctor said, this is what's called pregnancy. This is normal. You're pregnant. You're going to have these pains.
Okay, anywho. So since I was 34 weeks pregnant, we couldn't go to the urgent care, and they told us, like, we have to go to the ER. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is like my worst nightmare. I did not want to deliver a baby in the ER because I just, or the labor and delivery unit. I wanted like a birthing suite, a relaxing at-home type environment. So I was like, oh man, let's just go home. Actually, I feel like 100% better now.
Yeah, and with the description of her symptoms, there was no going home. I was not going to take her home. So we went to the emergency room, or went up to the nurse, told her what was going on, and within 5 minutes they were taking her upstairs.
Yeah, they're like straight to labor and delivery, like, and yeah, I guess my blood pressure was like skyrocket, and they found.
Well, they put Danica first in the pre-labor room to check her vitals, check the baby's vitals, so hook the baby up. And of course, the baby's heartbeat was going great, just as it always has. Yeah. Danica had a little bit of a...
had like a little contraction.
A little contraction, that's what it was.
Yeah, but it wasn't nothing major. I didn't even feel it, honestly. I didn't know it was a contraction. But then when they took my urine sample, they found something in my urine. They're like,
Yeah, they found high levels of uric acid and some other things in there, way more than it needed to be.
yeah, and that's when they were like, you have preeclampsia. And I was like, oh no. Because from my understanding, when you have preeclampsia, you have to deliver the baby. Like, there's no waiting around for
So
it.
they took her right away from the pre-labor delivery room to the labor and delivery room, her hospital room,
Mm-hmm.
and ran some more tests and still kept her observing her. They gave her some hypertension, which is high blood pressure medicine, to see if they could bring it down,
Yeah,
and that
didn't work.
wasn't working. That was the scary part. They were giving that to her, and it just was not working. So they ran a couple tests, gave it some time to see if it would work, and then the doctor came in, and
She gave us our options. She was like,
she didn't give us options.
no, she did. She did. She said, I can give you some medicine to try to get you to start labor.
Oh, those options. Yeah,
Yeah.
well. What she said is, we're going to deliver this baby tonight.
Yeah.
So that was the part was no option.
And that's when I was like, are you sure? And I started crying. I was like, no.
Yes, Danica started bawling. She said wanted to go home for the night to think about it.
I was like, just
She
one
said,
week.
can't we keep the baby in another week? She just wasn't getting it that there was no options because her life was in danger.
Yeah.
And she didn't put that piece in there. So the doctor gave us some options in that we could
Induce the
labor, but there was no guarantee.
A cesarean.
But there was no guarantee that inducing the labor was going to work, and eventually have to have a cesarean anyway, and
then
go.
After checking my cervix, she said, like, first of all, you're not dilated whatsoever. And then we did an ultrasound again.
The ultrasound technician was doing a normal ultrasound, as they do, measuring all the things that they needed to measure, check on Imani's growth. And at one point towards the last part of the ultrasound, the doctor came in and asked the ultrasound technician to check certain things in terms of blood circulation and checking the umbilical cord to the baby. And she did that, and I think it was just an absolutely life-saving request on her part, and just very smart on her part, and we totally appreciate that now. But what it showed is Imani had to be delivered right away because Imani was not getting.
She wasn't going to
all of a sudden
through the contractions.
She wasn't going to make it all the way through the contractions because she wasn't getting blood supply from mom.
Yeah.
She would get that blood supply about every third or fourth movement of the heart. So Imani was starting to get into some trouble as well. So we were really left with one option. And
the option that was definitely not on my birth plan.
And that was a C-section.
To do a cesarean. And honestly, the cesarean, I don't remember most of it. They gave me some medicine before.
And this wasn't and I'm sorry, babe, but this wasn't a cesarean like get you ready for cesarean. This is, we're doing a cesarean and we're taking you back there in 10 minutes. It was quick.
Yeah, it was so quick. I had to have a shot for Imani's lungs to make sure that they are all the way developed. And then next thing I know, I'm getting pushed back into the room, and I was like, oh. I was so shocked that it was going to be that fast. Like, I really thought I might be able to escape and go home and think about it, for just let her grow a little bit more. Like, that was my main thing. I was like, I want her to be fully developed. I don't want to have her premature. But luckily, the cesarean went good. The freaking spinal block, oh my gosh. I'm scared of needles. That's why I don't like hospitals. And the spinal block hurt so bad. Like, I could feel it all throughout my whole body when they put the needle in. And it felt like it took hours just to put that stuff in my spine.
And while Danik was back there, because she couldn't have anyone back there while she was getting her spinal block. I was pacing the room, and finally, after about a half hour, they brought me back to the surgical room, to the operating room where they
You
were
got to
performing
watch
the
the whole
C-section.
thing.
Yeah, they draped over Danica, tugged a little bit to move her
Yeah,
guts around.
I don't remember tugging. He was like, "You didn't remember? They were shaking you all over the bed." I
Yeah,
was
the
like,
whole thing was moving.
No,
Yeah.
I don't remember that. And then next thing I know, they were laying my baby on my chest, and she just stopped crying after she felt me, and it was just so calming and so reassuring. Like, okay, she's okay. And I got like an hour of skin to skin with her.
Yeah, it was an absolute blessing to have a baby that was premature and not have to be rushed immediately up to the NICU.
Yes, because her
Imani
lungs
was
were developed.
breathing on her own,
She was
crying on her own,
What's it called when they're trying to eat?
queuing to eat
Yeah.
with her lips. She was really just skinny, and that was it.
Yes, she was.
So that's why
she was.
you got so much skin time is she was healthy.
Yes, so she was 3 pounds and 9 ounces when she was born. I think she was about 16 inches.
Yeah, and I think what we can do is add a picture on here of her being held up by the nurse.
No, I'm not adding that picture.
Add that picture because you could see just how little she was, but how mad she was.
So mad if she's seen that picture on here. That's so rude. But anywho,
we'll put one where she's on your chest. How about
yeah, I'll
that
put the one on my chest, and like I'll insert some pictures so you guys can like see. And I'm gonna go get her right now.
Well, as Danica's going to get her, the time came to actually take her to the NICU, and Danica asked me to go with her, and it put me in a tough spot because my wife's still in the operating room, just had a C-section, and here my daughter's being taken away, but I knew Danica was in great hands, and she asked me to go, so I went with Imani to the NICU, and she was just tiny. But when she got down there and she was all settled and they took all her vitals and she's trying to cue to eat, which was very surprising to the nurses, she was able to hold my little finger.
And I sadly did not get to see Imani until like 24 hours after this surgery because I couldn't walk. That was the main thing. I couldn't even get out of bed.
She couldn't feel her legs.
I could not move my legs. Like the nurse, the first time I got out of bed, the nurse had to help me pick up my legs and move them. I was like, oh my God, I'm paralyzed. I was so scared. Like, oh my goodness, it was so scary. And then like around the clock, they were giving me all these medicines for pain,
blood pressure and
blood
pain.
pressure, stool softeners, and I was like, why do I need this? And I learned the hard way that you should be taking your stool softeners after you have a baby, no matter what.
So Imani down in the NICU, they have in the hospital we were at, they have 2 levels. They have the more intense NICU, the baby's needing a lot more attention, and then they have the babies second NICU for babies who are working to go home.
Yeah, they just need to eat and grow.
So Imani was down in the intense NICU for a really short time. I think 3 days, maybe 2 days, if
it was
that.
like 2 days because I only went down there one day.
Yeah, and then she was up. And that's because Imani didn't need a breathing tube. She didn't need a whole lot because, again, she was healthy. Her lungs were good. She just needed to feed, so they had a feeding tube in her. And, of course, all the wires to check her vitals, and her vitals were always in great shape. And then they moved her to the I'm going to go home soon NICU so she could grow.
And she was only in the NICU a total of like 16 days.
Mm-hmm.
Thank goodness. I felt like it was longer because around the clock we were always there. Like Scott got off work and he was working from the hospital. And yeah, even when he went back to work, I was still there for like 9 hours a day, just sitting in the NICU, like watching her grow. I would try latching her on the boob, feeding her a bottle, all of that.
Yeah, we worked our schedules, and I think we worked them really well, and we knew when her feeding times were, because everything is very meticulous there in terms of times and schedules. So after about a week after being at the hospital, being at home, we can change. It was time for me. I had to go back to work. So what we would do is I would drive Danica to the hospital. We would go up for Imani's first feeding, and then I would leave there, go to work. Danica would stay at the hospital all day with Imani and feed her, make sure she was doing okay, talk to her, and really be the wonderful mother she is to her. And then after work, I would come back, and we would be there till about 10 o'clock or so every night. So we'd be there from about 7 or 8 till 10 o'clock every day, and just getting her to grow, getting her to feed, getting her to grow, and just watching the great steps that Imani took to get some weight on. And again, the only thing wrong with Imani is she was just skinny.
Yeah.
So she needed to put on weight, and she got up to about 5 pounds before she left.
Yeah, she was about 5 pounds.
And we started prepping to leave, which is, the car seat test and temperature test and bath
so
test.
Crazy. I have a picture. I'll probably insert the picture of when, like the day that we got to take her home, the car seat test. She was so tiny in her car seat, and now she's like, she's probably like 13 pounds or 14 pounds now. 6 months old. She can fit her 6-month-old clothes. No more preemie, no more newborn. Yes.
She's talking, she's yelling, she's eating solid foods.
Grabbing stuff. Bringing
eats...
food to her mouth.
Yes, she is.
Yeah, we're talking.
She's got a little attitude all the time. so I think overall we're scared, but we believed, and we were blessed, and knew that by prayer and putting everything in God's hands, everything would be good, and it was. And money in God's hands, and that's all we needed. So I'd say to everyone going through anything like this and going through a pregnancy, you're going to have a plan, and we had a plan, we had a goal, we had ways we wanted to do it, and don't stop making that plan, but be ready for the unexpected, and just be ready early, because you never know, and don't be afraid of the unknown, but place your fears in God's hands, and He will take care of you. We went through a lot of fear with her, prayed over her, prayed about her when we were in the hospital. And although it was scary, we knew we would come out ahead on this, and we have, and we're blessed.
Yes. So thank you so much for joining with this video, because I'm glad I finally got this off my chest. This is like
and she didn't cry.
It's like my first time actually talking through all of it. Like, I run it through my head all the time, but I never, like, talk through it.
Yeah. And one thing I think that Danica has a hard time grasping and admitting to herself is, with what happened, if she wanted to leave for that day, she wanted to take care of Imani for that week and have her grow, she could have literally died. Her blood pressure was that high.
I could have died, like, stroked out, or I don't know. Or Imani could have died. So I'm really glad that Scott was so adamant about us going to the hospital and not leaving when I asked him so many times.
So listen to your body.
Yeah.
And listen to your signs, and
listen
don't
to your partner.
yes. And believe that things are just going to get better. If it doesn't feel right, it doesn't feel right.
Yeah. Thank you guys so much for tuning into today's video. Please do not forget to like, comment, and subscribe to the Roths channel. I think it's over here. Somewhere over there. Like it, comment, subscribe it, and stay tuned for more vlogs.